That was loud, wasn't it? Oh, waiting room on. Let's see if I can get us live. Let's see if this works. Apparently it does work. I am now live. Me being techie, right? Bear with me. I am going to attempt something that I've never done before. I'm going to see if I can do my Zoom webinar and also have it live streaming to Facebook at the same time. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to be on for around about an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. So feel free to hang out with me, or you can watch this back. I'm also going to be recording it. I'm going to try and send it out again. And I am jumping on to talk a little bit about anxiety and to try and provide some support, really for parents and carers, people who are supporting a child or young person who's really struggling with anxiety at the moment. So this is what I'm live. This is what it's all about. This is why I'm here. But I'm just going to head back to my Zoom room. And just keep an eye on the waiting room there. Let's let people in. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Just to let you know, guys, you'll have had the notice, but I am recording and I am also trying to live stream, see if I can get out to support as many people as I can. So feel free to keep your cameras off. And you can, if you feel like you want to change your names, please do that. I'm actually going to see if I can change my name. We'll just wait a couple of seconds and see if anyone else is going to join us. There we go. Got my cup of tea, I've got my pen and paper, all ready to go. If I pull this off, it'll be a miracle. If I can manage to do this with you guys on Zoom and live on Facebook at the same time, I'll be well impressed with myself. Just a couple more people joining from the waiting room. So while we're waiting for people to hop on, this might be a good time if you need to grab yourself a drink, get a brew, maybe get a pen and paper if you want to scribble down some notes, because I really want to share as much useful information as I possibly can with you. I love that. I'm not mum today. Brilliant. And I'll just give you a little bit of a disclaimer here. This when I do Zooms or any kind of online at this time of night, my own family seem to decide and they're actually probably watching this live stream because they've noticed I've gone on Facebook, but my own family decide to all go nuts and get really loud and noisy. So apologies in advance if there are any noises in the background or any interruptions. I'm just going to give it one more minute. Welcome, whoever's come in the room. Feel free to change your name if you'd like to. In fact, let's just see how this looks. In fact, you're all right, the live stream. I didn't really, no idea how this works, but it is just me. It's just my massive face on Facebook because I can see. So none of you are visible in any way, but feel free to just keep your cameras off, keep your mics off, whatever feels comfortable. You're more than welcome to use the chat facility throughout. Any questions, any comments, anything that sort of strikes a nerve and you think, oh, that resonates, use the chat. I'll try and keep my eye on it throughout the session, and I'll certainly be around with any questions if anyone needs anything. I'm just going to mute you just to make sure we don't have any feedback for a sec. Fabulous. Right, okay. So I'm going to keep an eye on the waiting room while I'm at it. But But welcome those of you that have joined me on Zoom, and welcome to everybody out there in Facebook land if you're watching the live stream, or if you're watching this back afterwards. I realise it's 7 o'clock in the evening, and the very nature of this session is all about supporting young people, children and young people who are struggling with anxiety at the moment. So I'm imagining you're all parents or carers that have jumped on. So this time is a bit tricky usually, isn't it? So I appreciate you jumping on with me at this time. Just a little bit of information about what I'm going to be covering in the next hour or so. What this is about, and probably most importantly what it isn't, because there's so much need out there at the moment. The world's on fire, isn't it? And everybody's just in crisis, and everybody needs real big help and support. So I think it's important for me to explain what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm trying to do in this session, and what I can't do. Because the whole point of me setting this one up for tonight was because recently I've had more than usual, and I usually get quite a lot, but a bit of a tsunami of people in my inbox, whether it's email, it could be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, lots and lots of parents just contacting me saying, I don't know what to do. You know, I know that you deal with this kind of thing. What do I do? We're on a CAMHS waiting list. We've been to the GP, school aren't helping. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. So it's a real recurring theme at the moment, and I'm hearing it more and more and more. And obviously I just want to help everybody I possibly can, but limited capacity, and for my own well-being, trying to make sure I'm not trying to, you know, my eyes not off the ball with my own family. I wanted to find a way that I could get as much information out as I have, and that, you know, that I give in my sessions in one go, so that I can really try and get this information out without having to have lots of individual conversations all kinds of day and night. So I thought this was a good way to do it. If I could jump on Zoom, throw the link out, record it, so if anyone misses it, I can then send it out and double up. And then I had the bright idea as I was coming on, I could just click that button that says go live on Facebook, and then anybody out there on Facebook, you just might get some information that just might help. So it's purely me trying to share a little bit of knowledge and wisdom and support to you guys, just to see if I can make a difference and you know, either give you some tools that might help you as a parent or a carer, or that you can pass on and work with your young person, or yourself. You know, there's some things in here that will really help you. So what it isn't is, it's not you know, a therapeutic environment that I'm going to be doing anything specific. I am not going to be able to do any one-to-one counselling or therapeutic intervention or anything like that. Sorry. So I know that sometimes when it's a lifeline that you really sort of grab hold of, sometimes you just don't want to let go, and you think, right, I need you to come and help, I need you to come and do this. And I get that quite a lot, quite tough at the moment. So I can't offer anything specific one-to-one, but I can offer support spaces, and I can signpost to places that I know have that capacity and can help. And I can, you know, provide you with all kinds of resources that might help you as well. So just as a little heads up, in case you were wondering what it's all about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the next probably an hour and a bit, and you can feel free to hop off, hop on. You know, you're not going to be offending me in any way. If you have to jump off for any reason, you can catch the replay. But I am going to be sharing with you the foundations of my Mindset Mojo program, basically. So all of the information that I give out around what anxiety is and what happens are really, really useful. If you understand what's going on, you know, you've got a better place to start from when you're trying to find ways to help. So we're going to cover a little bit of that. I'm going to screen share and hope that I do it right so that Facebook can see, otherwise they're just going to be looking at me. Then we're going to look at what can we do. So this is what's happening. This is actually what's going on. Here's the knowledge you need to understand a little bit more. So what next? What can we do? Some practical takeaways. So by the end, you've got a few tools in your kit that you can use to work with any kids that you're supporting at the moment. So that's the plan. And I've also got a bit of signposting to do, so that there are other things that you might be able to look at, you know, if you need some further help and support. So first of all, what I will do is I'm going to throw a link to a form in the chat box, because after tonight, when I come off, if I've spoken some sense, or you've thought, you know what, actually, that did make sense, that's helped a little bit, I could do with some more. I'm starting my new Mindset Mojo program on Tuesday, and again, it's free, no cost, right? It's funded elsewhere, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'll be jumping on Zoom. It won't be live streamed. I'll be jumping on Zoom every Tuesday from next week at 7:30. again for an hour or so, and it's split into 6 weeks. So it's a bit like a 6-week program where we go a little bit deeper, lots more strategies and lots more information, which will help you with your own well-being and also kind of filter it onto the rest of the family. So if you want that resource, if you want to jump on, I am going to get you the form right now, because I just wanted to do it at the beginning so that if you have to run off or you know, you have to jump off Zoom, you'll at least have the link there at the beginning. So copy. So impressed with myself to get to the end of this in one piece. Right, chat. So this is a real simple little Microsoft Forms that I put on Office, and it'll just be like an expression of interest. So if you think, yeah, I'm gonna have a look at that, and I'll do some more sessions, get some more info, you can jump on that. I put it in the event. So the event that I put on Facebook about this, I put the form in there, and I'm going to share it on my profile later anyway on Facebook. So I will get the link out there anyway. And then I'll be able to email you, send you all the details of that. So that's some further support after tonight. I also wanted to tell you a little bit about another space that you can look at, that you could access. There's a friend of mine, absolutely brilliant woman, Suzanne Alderson, who has a Facebook group, Parenting Mental Health, and they've got just over 24,000 members on this group. And Suzanne has just an absolute brilliant story. You know, that I'm sure if you connect with her, you'll hear all about it. So just have a little look on Facebook if you want to be able to get part of a community that really is specifically for supporting parents who are supporting young people with all kinds of things going on, whether it's anxiety, depression, a diagnosed mental health condition. It's a brilliant, nurturing, supportive space with lots of signposting, lots of resources. And she's also written a book, an amazing book called Never Let Go. So just have a look out there, have a search for the book Never Let Go, and get on Facebook and have a look for that group. It's really good. Another resource that's really good is Go Zen. I don't know whether anybody's heard of it before, but there's some really good resources on anger management and trying to support young people. So Go Zen, if you Google that, there's a whole load of resources there that might be useful to you. And the final little bit of signposting, and I'm going to, if you do stay in touch, I'll be sending this out as a link for you anyway. It's www.grownandflown.com, and there's a soft skills section, 100 things, which is really good, 100 things that young people need to learn. I think it should be on the curriculum everywhere. I'm actually going to try and pop that link for you in the chat, those of you that are on here anyway. Those of you out there on Facebook, you'll have to have a little look for it. Okay, so that link is going in there. So all the resources that I want to share, you've got them at the beginning in case you need to go, and I don't want you missing anything. So jump on my 6-week course if you think it's going to help. The form's there for you. You've got Parenting Mental Health Facebook group that's going to be able to give you that deeper support. And then the Grown and Flown link that I put there, grownandflown.com. There's loads of resources on there. But the 100 soft skills for teens is a pretty good place to start. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, I thought it would be a good starting point, and in every single one of my sessions, this tends to be the foundation of what we do, is to get a little bit of understanding and to do a little bit of neuroscience, but I mean like layman's terms neuroscience. I'm like the translator, so all the jargon is just too confusing, all the Latin names for parts of the brain. But some of these things are so important when it comes to understanding what is going on in your own mind and in the people around you, your friends, your family, your children. Because when we have absolutely no idea why someone is behaving the way they are, all we can do in return is react ourselves. So I think the starting point is to actually get an understanding of how your psychology becomes your biology, and how certain chemical reactions take place when someone experiences a trigger. And things like just snap out of it, or oh, just take a deep breath, or just count to 5 don't always work, because there's something else going on that we need to be aware of. And when I started Mindset Mojo a few years ago, this was the part that the penny would drop, and I can see people going, oh, if I'd known that before, or if I'd known this when I was growing up, it would have made such a difference. So I always think that's a really good place to start, is giving that little bit of knowledge. So we'll do the knowledge bit first, see if we can get some understanding going of what's actually going on, and then we'll look at some action steps and what actually might be able to help moving on. So this this bit here is going to be a bit of a screen share. So I'm going to see how well I do. And when I've screen shared, I'm going to have a little look on Facebook sneakily to see if it's actually working. But before I do, I think just to give you the heads up that even though you've come on here because you are looking for obviously some solutions and some ways to support your young people, you have to take into consideration that you need to do that too. It's so overwhelming. Just being a parent in general is overwhelming. It's difficult. It's tough. Right now, in the world that we're living in, everything is really tough. So try not to think of it just with your parent hat on, thinking I need to get all this information and I need to give it to my young person. This is something that affects absolutely everybody. So some of the things we'll go through, use it yourself, because let's face it, we have to be modeling that behavior that we want to see, as hard as that is. And it's really tough to do. I get it. I'm a parent, I've got 4 kids. I'm constantly making mistakes and getting it wrong. But I can see how when I do manage to model good behavior, it really, really shows with my kids. So if I show my kids that I'm taking time for my own well-being, or I'm working through stuff and being honest about it, and I just triggered myself off there and I didn't want that to happen. So I'm going to apologize and I'm going to recognize that. Kids really, really, really do respond. So this information, use it for yourselves as well. One of the things that comes up quite a lot when I get parents getting in touch is parents saying, listen, I need some help. What can my kid's really struggling for one reason or another. Usually low self-esteem, low self-worth, really poor confidence, and it's manifesting in all kinds of different behaviors. And I don't know what to do. What can I do? And things like, when I used to do a lot of fashion and media type stuff, I'd have parents saying, please, 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 at the time, young girls especially, please, can my daughter just come and do some work with you? Her self-esteem is just awful. She's got zero confidence. We've got issues with food. We've got, we've got a lot of self-harm going on. I don't know what to do for her. And I think coming to work with you guys and maybe doing something around body positivity and confidence will really help her. So I say, yeah, cool, yeah, bring her down. You come as well. It'd be great. Oh no, I'd break the camera. I could, no, I wouldn't be able to do that at all. I'll stay away. No one wants me there. At which point I have to then have this gentle conversation with the parent saying, dude, let's have a little think around why we think your daughter is experiencing this low self-worth, low self-esteem, really poor confidence. If this is what they're seeing and this is what they're getting, they learn by what we do, not by why we say. So it's just something to consider. Use all these resources for you and have it as like a cultural thing within the family. Everybody can make use of this stuff and everyone can work together and be accountable, saying, yeah, sometimes I do this, I behave like this and it's not cool. So let's work together, rather than just lumping it on the kid and thinking, right, something wrong with you. There you go. There's a pack of resources. Go fix yourself. It really usually is a generational thing that we all have to work on together. So let me do a little bit of a screen share. Bear with me for 1 second while I get to the right screen up first. This is where I feel like I'm a teacher. It's great. Right, let's see. Now, I know that I think I've seen my little friend Carla on here, because the important thing now is for me to make sure that you can actually see the screen that you're meant to see. So I might ask you, Carla, just to take your mic off and say yes if you can see it, or give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, I can see it.
So far, so good.
You're getting good at this.
You know what? It seems to be a lot of practice, I think. I just been on Zoom permanently. Oh, yes, and Facebook's caught up.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's like a miracle. Thanks, Jackie. This is great. Right, so I'm going to move you guys across there so I can see what I'm doing. So this is, if you do decide to join me as well on Mindset Major, it's a spoiler alert, actually. Carla, I know you're jumping on next Tuesday. Spoiler alert, because I've taken this from one of the sessions that I do, but it's just key in quick understanding of our stress response, of what anxiety actually is. Because people just, there's a label that gets, I'm on medication for anxiety. I'm an anxious person. I struggle with anxiety. I have anxiety. We've got this label that comes on, in various ways, but most of us have no idea what it actually is. What is it? We know how it feels. Everyone knows how it feels. And stress and anxiety, what's the difference? What's going on? Your stress response is what we're going to look at. What happens when you experience a trigger and you blow up and you have that reaction. Now, a prolonged, constant stress response that isn't switched off is what anxiety is. You know, we need our stress response to be able to survive as a species, but it should be a switch. It should be switched on when we need it and then immediately switched off. When it's constantly flicked on, you know, we have this constant sense of anxiety. Okay, so stress can be physical, chemical, and emotional. When we're knocked out of balance in any of these areas, we turn on our stress response. So beautiful impression of a brain there. Obviously, the brain is a mega complex thing, and I am in no way, shape, or form a neuroscientist or a highly experienced psychologist. I have, you know, some pretty nifty skills when it comes to these areas, and I've collected a lot of knowledge, and I have, you know, some qualifications and some things that I've written, but there are much deeper things to go into with these things because the brain's so complex. But what I need to know to be able to help the people I work with, and what you guys need to know, is that there are 3 areas of the brain that are really, really crucial to understand when it comes to anxiety and the stress response. So you have this tiny little part in the middle called the amygdala, which is a Latin word. They're all very, very complicated Latin words. So on the next slide, I've got an easier way to remember them. So amygdala it's actually Latin for almond because it's almond shaped, but it's tiny, tiny little gland, middle of your brain, really, really important. And you also have the hippocampus, and then you have the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is the wiggly bit that you see on the front of the brain. It's the most recently developed part of the brain. It's responsible for logic and reasoning and language and all the, you know, the things that make us modern humans. So those 3 parts of the brain are really, really crucial when we're talking about anxiety and the stress response. And the best way that I can remember them is by putting animals to them. And ironically, this was designed, Mindset Mojo, for adults and for leaders. So it looks like I actually designed it for kids and then rolled it out to the grown-ups, but I actually designed this for adults and then got asked to make it for children. And I already had these cartoon animals in. I'm like, yeah, we can get it straight on there for kids because I already use the animals. Because when I was learning about it, it was the easiest way, you know, I was taught this way and it was the easiest way to remember. So the amygdala is basically it's your guard dog. So your amygdala is your fear radar and your internal guard dog. And it's constantly 24 hours a day scanning the horizon looking for danger. That's its only job. Its job is to protect you and to make sure you know when there's any kind of threat anywhere. Works with all of your senses, so every sense, whether it's hearing or sight or touch or smell, it's going to let you know the second it thinks something's wrong because it has to keep you alive, and that's its job. So that's your guard dog. Then you're going to have your hippocampus, which is really annoying that it's an elephant because it would have been really good if it was a hippo, but I don't know whether hippos are forgetful or not, and apparently elephants never forget. So your hippocampus, you have the picture of the elephant there, and this is your storage vault. It's like your internal hard drive, and it stores absolutely every single thing that you've experienced since birth. So through all of your senses, any bit of data that's come in will get stored in your hard drive. You're not aware of most of it because it gets deleted and distorted, and you're only aware of a very, very small percentage, which we go through in Mindset Mojo. But everything is there, and your subconscious has this space that it's all stored just in case you ever need it ever again. And then you have your prefrontal cortex, which is your wise old owl. So your most modern part of the brain that's developed, the prefrontal cortex, is your problem solving, your logic and reasoning, your language skills, how we can work towards solutions, working as a team, your linguistics and all that kind of stuff. And so it makes sense that this, when it comes to teens in particular, kids and teens, this part of the brain isn't really fully developed until they're about 24. So when we look at the anxiety response within a youth sort of setting, it becomes obvious to see why we have such trouble with kids and teens, especially growing up with all the hormonal responses going on. You've got this added issue that you feel like you can do things, but your brain actually doesn't have the capacity to do this stuff. Your logic, your reasoning, your problem solving, your language skills just aren't quite there yet. So you'll still have this stress response, you still have these triggers. You can't access what you need to be able to make sense of the world and to be able to get through things. And as adults, it's really difficult because we just get frustrated thinking, what's the matter with you? Just get on with it. But understanding what's actually going on in the brain, it sometimes makes it a bit easier. So these parts of your brain are really important. Amygdala, your guard dog, the hippocampus, storage vault, and then your prefrontal cortex, your wise old owl. Now we also have another animal. This fella tends to come out, and this guy is your ape. And you'll have heard of the saying, when you go ape, and this is him. So your other animal is your bodyguard, and this is also known as your sympathetic nervous system. Right, so what happens is when your guard dog decides that there's a threat somewhere and starts barking to warn you, there's a big disconnect with the other parts, right? So there's no access to logical reasoning. The sprinkler system's come on, the elephant's gone to hide in the cupboard, the owl's flown out the window. I don't know where else to go here. We're not safe. Something is wrong. We're in danger. Who do I? Bodyguard, let's let him out. Let's let the ape out. And then this is what happens. So when we have this trigger, this is the response, because the brain won't let anything else happen. There's too much danger. There's not enough time to think. I have to react really quickly. I'm thinking as you guys, as adults, you will be able to recognize this in yourself. It's fight or flight. You'll have heard this before. Your fight or flight response is your sympathetic nervous system. It's a hormonal response that happens when you experience a trigger that makes you feel unsafe. Okay, so your bodyguard, it only knows how to do 3 things. That's it. That's its only job, is to do 3 things. It's fight, flight, or freeze. So you'll have heard fight or flight. There's another one, freeze. There's actually more, which we go into in a bit of depth. These are the main ones, but we've got fight, flight, freeze, flock, and fawn. So there, and I'm sure there's more, but these responses that happen when your guard dog kicks off and when your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Usually when it comes to teens, you'll have fight or flight. You'll run out and slam a door, got to get out of here, just I'm out and done. Or I'm going to throw a chair through a window, I'm going to scream in your face, or I'm going to get violent. Right, so that's normally what we find, isn't it? And with us as well, as parents, as adults, you'll recognize in yourself when something hits your radar that's a trigger for you. All of a sudden your brain says, this isn't safe, this isn't safe, this isn't safe, I need to do something quickly. And you might just freeze and get brain fog and completely not be able to function, or you might have to leave the room, get out, get away, leave the situation. Or you might be the one that has the fight response and will start to react in that way and get defensive and shout or throw things or smash things or slam cupboards. It's part of nature. No, it's part of who we are as a human species. We just need to understand how it works, and we need to work with it a little bit more, because it's a really essential thing to have. It's kept us alive for years and years and years. At the moment, it seems to be getting a little bit out of control and we're all reacting all of the time. So what happens when you experience a trigger and your fight or flight response kicks in is a number of things happen biologically. So within your system, the hormones get released, and there's 2 hormones that I'm going to tell you about that get released. And when they do, all kinds of physiological things happen. So your saliva flow increases, your pupils will dilate, deep breathing, you'll start to have deeper breaths, your food movement slows down, okay? All your blood vessels start to increase as major vessels dilate. Your muscles become more tense, you can get shakes. Digestive system starts to shut down, your heart will beat faster to pump more blood around your body. All the blood vessels will start to constrict. And you'll remember all of these things the last time that you had your sympathetic nervous system response. Tight chest, palpitations, sweating, sweaty palms, butterflies in your tummy. If you've ever experienced which you will have done, because everybody has, butterflies in your tummy, is actually all of your digestive system closing down. It's the vessels changing and going and shutting down because it's not needed. So that actual physical response that you feel, this is what it's all part of. The digestive system is not needed when you're under threat. And don't forget, in our evolutionary past, we would have been running away from a predator. So at that time, that's what, your amygdala was, kept you alive. But at that time, everything gets shut down so that the hormones can kick in to make you run away or fight the threat. So they're really, really important, but nowadays they become really, really damaging if we don't keep a control of them. So we have our sympathetic nervous system, which is otherwise known as fight or flight. And we also have the opposite to that. So when the switch is flicked back again, we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is otherwise known as rest and digest. So they are like two sides of the same coin, or your switch being flicked on and being flicked back off again. So as human beings, we're always either in a state of responding, which is fight or flight, just responding to a threat, responding to a danger, acting quickly to get out of a dangerous situation or a perceived threat. Or we're creating. When we're in rest and digest, we're chilled out, our cells are renewing, and we're in a space where we can create, we can have ideas, we can have conversations, we can repair our cells and our tissues. I know which one I want to be in more of. When we're in fight or flight, we shut down our immune system, interestingly, in order to direct all of our resources to the immediate threat. So not only does our digestive system shut down, our immune system shuts down. Our biochemistry is changed, raising blood pressure and diverting blood to somewhere else to help us get away or to fight, as our sympathetic nervous system thinks that there is urgency to escape. Interesting thoughts. When we're in rest and digest, we're repairing and creating new healthy cells, and our thoughts are turned inwards to creating new ideas and new behaviours relating to our dreams, wishes, and goals. We can't be in response and creation states at the same time. And this is the important thing that I'm trying to teach so much if I can. We are perpetually on a treadmill being chased by a grizzly bear. And we are constantly in this mode, whether we think we are or not, even if you don't feel like you're particularly an anxious or a stressed person. Modern society means that a lot of the time with deadlines and pressures and bills to pay and different activities after school, we've got to go from here to there and we're rushing around. A lot of the time we are in this mode, and it is like being constantly chased by a grizzly bear where we don't get to switch our sympathetic nervous system off. And it's quite dangerous for our health, mental health and physical health. We need to learn emotional intelligence to help us to stay calm and focused and get some balanced, which is some of the things that I'm going to share with you will help to be able to do that. Right, let me stop screen sharing for a second. I should come back onto the normal screen now. So before we start thinking about some potential solutions, I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail about the slides that I've just shown you. And I've got my little tool here to show you how the amygdala works. So that little gland in the brain, the little guard dog, it's doing this all the time. Right, so it's just pulsing. It's 24 hours a day, it doesn't stop. It's pulsing away and it's scanning the horizon. So for example, if you're out of the corner of your eye, a piece of fluff just travels across the floor and you jump out of your seat, your amygdala's done that because it's already tracked and located a potential threat. It's warned you. Your apes come out because it's given the warning, threat, danger, danger. And you'll have an immediate spike of an anxiety feeling, thinking there's a melted spider in the corner. And then you'll realize it's not, and then you'll think that's okay. And you'll switch back to rest and digest. So when you experience a trigger, or you're experiencing an anxiety attack, an anxiety response, this is what's happening. Like, threat, we've got a problem. And this is how your ape gets released. In somebody who has PTSD, this is the amygdala. Constant heightened state of threat response, where it always needs to be hyper vigilant and hyper alert, waiting for something dangerous to attack. Now, obviously, in our evolutionary past, we can understand why this part of our brain was needed, because we had to have a way to be able to escape a danger. We had to survive as a species. And when your fight or flight response, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in, there's lots of things that happen, but two main hormones are released, cortisol and adrenaline. You'll have heard of adrenaline, I imagine. Adrenaline is superpowers, speed, strength, and it's great. We need that. We need it to do certain things in our lives. And we also need cortisol. What cortisol does is it primes all of your cells, it inflames your cells, ready just in case you get attacked. Now, how smart is that? It's a clever, sophisticated piece of kit to be able to do that. So while you're running away and trying to get away or fighting the threat off, cortisol is inflaming all of your cells ready to protect, to start the repair process. So if you do get caught and if you do lose the fight, you've still got a chance of survival because your cells are repairing themselves already. Amazing, brilliant. We need it. It's not a bad thing. But you imagine If the threat is no longer a saber-toothed tiger or a bear or something that's coming for you while you're around the campfire, what if your threat is social media? What if your threat is bully at school that then jumps on social media when you're at home and you can't escape? What if it's the constant pressure of choosing between heating or eating? What if it's pressure from your workload at work that you can't escape from because you've got a family to support and you need to do it in order to survive, and you can't get any rest, you can't get any sleep? The threat is there that you're not going to pay your bills. Massive. What about the threat of not being able to measure up to the images you're presented with in the media? What if you're constantly bombarded with a size, with a shape, with an identity, with gender stereotypes that tell you you should fit in this box and you don't feel like you fit in that box, and you feel under threat of being judged constantly? You feel under threat and unsafe that people don't understand you, don't like you, don't care about you. These are all real serious threats that we're exposed to in modern day, and our body, our brain and our body don't know the difference. So we have these perceived threats that mean we're constantly on that treadmill, and our minds are constantly experiencing this response that we're in danger. So we're in danger, but now we're usually in danger of not being enough, not being accepted. You know, we're in danger of being ridiculed or of being judged because we don't fit into, you know, a nice beige box that somebody's told us we're supposed to be fitting into. So this is how serious it is, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, to try and get some understanding in there that this is a perfectly normal human response. It's a perfectly normal human response. We've just got so out of balance and so traumatized that we can't find our way out of it, and we need the knowledge. We need the knowledge backed up with some tools to be able to start to learn and get our way out of this. Now, I work with so many people, different demographics, different ages, different, just so many different people, and I always try and link this work in with it because everybody has these experiences. This is what connects us all. You know, our trauma, our stress and anxiety response, level playing field. You know, no one escapes it. This is what connects us, and this is how we can start to work through things together. So linking it back to this constant feeling of fear and judgment and stress, and someone's going to judge me, someone's out to get me, we have to start connecting the dots back to why we experience this in the first place. And it usually comes from some point in the past where we have taken a snapshot. So our hippocampus has stored a little snapshot from at some point when we were younger. A lot of the time it's before the age of 7, where we felt under threat. We felt like there was a danger somewhere. We felt that we weren't supported or that nobody listened to us. And we took this mental snapshot because we felt it so much in our body. We felt that response and that danger that our hippocampus is like, yeah, I need to remember this one. Don't want this to happen again. Right? So if we have all of these things stored away in our memories, in our subconscious, when your amygdala, your guard dog, comes across something that it thinks is loosely connected to this potential threat, it'll bark. It'll go off on one. Danger, 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 danger. Now that could be a party when you're younger where someone laughs at you. You've stored that memory. Every time you go to a party, or in fact any social setting anywhere for the rest of your life, that triggers you off. You start with that response. So it's quite a complex thing when we're thinking about anxiety, and especially at the moment with young people and supporting young people. We have this real difficulty that we're all busy with our stuff. We're all busy reacting to our things, and we're not even understanding how we're processing our stuff and how we're behaving and how we're reacting to our triggers. And then we've got our young people who have a different set of circumstances, all experiencing similar traumas, and they're reacting, and then everybody's reacting together. You can imagine there's a load of guard dogs going crazy. The sprinkler systems are on, the alarms are going off, and everyone's just, you know, in absolute chaos, not knowing how to support each other. So we need to just bring it down and get this basic awareness of what is going on in our own minds and the minds of our families and our friends and our children, so that we can start to think, hang on a sec, take a step back. I just felt like this then, and I just reacted like this. Is it reasonable? Is it a some kind of distorted view that I've got here? Am I actually in danger, or can I calm it down and think rationally? Can I access that part of my brain that will let me just think rationally and change my behavior? So if my normal reaction is someone challenges me on absolutely anything, I slam a door, which is a lot of our teenagers do, we can get to the point where we can build things in to notice that red flag when that behavior is coming up, to take a little step back and calm the sympathetic nervous system down to a point where we can access this logic and reasoning. Okay, why did that happen then? What happened? What did I need? What should I have done? What could I have done? And to choose a different behavior. And this is called neuroplasticity. So we have this ability within our brains. We might have hardwired behaviors in that's like, this is what happens to me, and that's how I behave, and that's it. Could be an anger response, or it could be an anxiety response, could be a run away or slam a door or shout at somebody. We might have done that forever, and that you just think it's part of your personality. But really, you know, your brain is just reacting to things that it's experienced in the past and trying to keep itself safe. We start to understand that and unpick it. It can be a little bit like recognizing the apps on your phone that are just draining your battery and that are bringing in viruses, and then we can swipe them up, free up a bit of space, and be able to then download some more positive apps, more positive behaviors that'll help when you're moving forward. So I'm hoping this makes a bit of sense. We'll go into a lot more detail when I'm doing my Mindset Mojo course, but just to give you that little bit of that initial understanding that when you're experiencing a trigger and you might not understand your kids, your young person, what is the matter with you? Why are you, I don't even know what happened then, and you've gone up like a bottle of pop. Just to start to think that this could be a reaction to something that you're not aware of. You've never spoken about it. You've not got the line of communication open to even build the trust in to have the conversation. But once you've got the awareness that something else might be going on there, and there's a hormonal physiological response that can't be helped, you start to think differently about your actions as a parent and how you can start to work with your young person to bring that level back down again, and to start to find ways to change. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's a famous saying, isn't it? And if you respond the same way to your child's anxiety every single time that happens and it's not working, then you have to find some way of changing your end. How can you respond a little bit differently to see if we can break that state and cause them to respond a little bit differently? And that's some of the things that I'm going to share in a sec. That'll be just some ideas for you to be able to do that. But it's very interesting, because what we want to have, cortisol, adrenaline, cracking, brilliant, keeps us alive. But they actually give cortisol to transplant patients before a transplant to shut the immune system down so that the transplant can take place. Powerful drugs, powerful stuff. We do not want cortisol running around our systems 24 hours a day. This is how we experience chronic pain, chronic fatigue, fibro, all kinds of physical things eventually, when you don't switch that switch off, start to come through. And this is why we've got such a society of real disease and pain and poor mental health and anxiety. It's because of this. So we need to start finding ways to shift it. We want things like, we want serotonin, and these are all made in your brain. We want more serotonin, we want more dopamine, we want oxytocin, we want the good hormones, the good feel stuff, and save the other stuff for when we're actually in a danger situation and we actually need to respond to something. So we need to plan in ways to get those feel good stuff going on. And I'm going to, right at the end, I've got a couple of little tricks to share with you that will help you instantly get those hormones coming through. And they'll be great for you to use and to share with the kids as well. So, hoping that all made sense. I'm trying to pack as much as I can into a short space of time, but just keep that awareness that this part of your brain can't help what it's doing. We need to recognize these red flags. We need to work out where they've come from, where these trigger responses are coming from, so that we can try and manage that. And we need to build in ways that we can switch our sympathetic nervous system back to parasympathetic nervous system as quickly as possible, so that we can actually communicate better and find out what happened then. What can we do differently next time? What do you need? Not what's the matter with you? What did you need then? What happened? What can we do? What can we do better next time? Just different language and different conversations make all the difference. And if you've got a good grasp of your own stress response, it sometimes helps, because then you can bring yourself down a little bit quicker, so that you can be there for your young person. So what I'm going to do is, I know we've got the chat box as well. I'm just going to spend 5 minutes or so And some of you who've worked with me before will already be aware of this little snazzy thing. It's a digital post-it note, and I am obsessed with post-it notes, and I make no apologies because they're really handy. I'm putting a link in the chat box for those of you that are on Zoom. For those of you that are watching on Facebook or watching playback, feel free to write your own notes down, because it will help you now start to understand what's going on. You can pop things in the comments if you're watching on Facebook, and I will read them when I get a chance, and we'll read and respond. But what I want to do is we're going to have a look now at what can we do? What can we do about that? Now we understand, okay, now I know the psychology and the biology behind it. We know what's happening. What can we do? What's the stuff that we can take away? So the first thing to do is identifying the challenges. We need to identify the challenges and the triggers and the red flags, because if we can do that and we know what is coming up, then we can start to really cognitively think about it and make some plans to help. So the digital post-it notes, you'll be able to click the link and you should be able to hop on, and I've put a red sticker on the left-hand side to try and identify what your biggest challenges as a parent. What are you struggling with the most? What is, why have you jumped on this Zoom? What is it that you're really struggling with in terms of your child's anxiety? What is it? And then on the right, I put another sticker, what I think my child's biggest challenge is. So one's for you, what are you struggling with? What do you need more support with? What do we need to work on? And the other side is whoever it is that you're supporting or caring for. What is it? Is it bullying? Is it exam pressure? What is it? What's their challenge? And I've put on there, what do you think their biggest challenge is? Because what you think is going on and what is actually going on can be two very different things. And an example of that could be a young person who is constantly locking themselves in their room. There could be issues with food. There could be issues with self-harm. There could be real flight response, flight and freeze, won't engage, really, really quiet, really disengaged, straight to the bedroom. And then that's the biggest thing. You might assume that there is something going on, that there's some bullying going on, or something. You might just assume something. What might be going on is something completely different, because you've not got the right communication channels open. Maybe the young person is really worried because they want to talk about the fact that they think they might be trans, or they might be gay, or there might be something going on that they feel like they can't speak to you about, and that is why the behaviour is being displayed. And you haven't got a clue, and you just think, oh, I know what's going on, they're just doing it because of that. So trying to identify exactly what's going on and trying to start thinking a little bit differently around how you work out what's going on. Do you have conversations? Do you have conversations within the house, within the family? Is there somebody in the family that's the mediator that's good at those conversations? Does everybody ignore problems because it's you're all in fight or flight and I can't even deal with that? Just everybody behave and get on and be happy because none of us can deal with any crap. That's so common, isn't it? We're all in that zone. But it just makes you think, do you have any ways to find out what's going on? Is there a time in the week where everyone sits down together at all? Can you build that in if there isn't? Is there a safe space for your child or young person to be able to go to say, do you know what, this is really bothering me? Or I need to talk about this. And when they do that, do they get, yeah, absolutely, whatever you need, let's have a talk? Do they get eye contact? Do they get open body language? Do they get a conversation, even if it's a difficult one? Do they get that from an adult? Or do they get, I'm busy and I'm guilty for it. My kids will probably call me out on it on Facebook now. Working and busy. It's really common, isn't it, at the moment? Yes, in a minute. But those kind of things, those kind of conversations, if your young person is desperate for some support, they don't know where to get it. If they get told, nah, busy, later, they might not feel like they can come back again. And that can be one of your big triggers. So just consider some of those things. Yeah, communication. Yeah, 100%. Whoever's popped that one down, it's brilliant. And this is great because it's totally anonymous. So there's no way to know who's posting what. Lots and lots of people with the same thing. And I would include myself in that as well. And I think everybody I come across, our own mental health as human beings, everything is stretched to capacity. And if we're on this blinkered, I struggle with anxiety. Maybe you have a diagnosis, maybe you have medication, maybe you've got a different therapeutic intervention, maybe you haven't, and you don't even know what's going on. But if you struggle with your own mental health, how on earth are you going to be able to, you've got to fix you. How on earth are you able to support somebody else? So it's working out, how do we build in good coping strategies and the right support network for you? And then these open and honest conversations with the family and with your kids, saying, I'm not okay, I'm really struggling, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, rather than trying to hide it, and then everything gets all, you know, the stress exacerbates then, doesn't it? And, you know, there's differences between, you know, boys and girls. There's differences in how we communicate and how you deal with things. So that could come up as something. Lots of young people aren't in school at the moment, and that's a massive challenge, especially when parents are trying to work. How do you work when your child's not attending school? And how do you support your child's education? We're not teachers. What on earth happens? Is there no support out there? You know, I've been on a waiting list for 2 years. What am I meant to do? There's all kinds of things that come up in terms of challenges as a parent. And there's all kinds of different things. Some people might, you know, you might have single parents out there that it's the fact that you're a single parent, you've got no support around you, and you're trying to do this by yourself and be all the roles. It's a huge barrier. It's a huge thing as a parent. It could be that there are other things going on in the family network that really are having a massive impact, and you don't feel like you're giving the time that's needed to your child, to your young person. But you can see how it's so important for us to look after our own and each other's, to look after you, because you cannot, I know it's really a bit cheesy, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. Chatting to a good friend of mine today, we were talking about the importance of, you know, we have to work out how we can overfill our cups, so that we, as the responsible, the adults, the people in charge, we fill ourselves up, so that we're not trying to fill from an empty cup and drain ourselves and give everything. We're empowering ourselves to fill ourselves up so that we can fill from our saucer. We're overflowing and then we're filling up from our saucer. That's a good way. That's a healthy way to work within a dynamic of a family, is everybody, you know, look after yourselves. So many people have this cripplingly low self-worth and self-esteem, and I don't deserve it. I need to put everybody else first. I'm not important enough. I'm not worthy. Everybody else must come first. And I get it, because I'm the same. I'm a massive people pleaser. All kinds of issues that I've got around self-worth, and even though I'm very confident, there's little things that I've been working on for years that I recognise. So everybody has stuff going on, but we have to prioritise that. You can't put it to the end of the list. You can't look after anybody very well unless you look after yourself. So I have to find a way to get that on my list of priorities. Got to fix myself up, got to start working on that, so that I'm in a better position to be a better carer, a better parent, and be able to deal with these difficult situations and be able to problem solve. If I'm in fight or flight all the time, I can't access my own logic and reasoning to work a plan out, let alone, you know, deal with somebody else who's in fight or flight. So, you know, it's that whole trying to model that good behavior. And even if things are really bad, it's the fact of saying, do you know what, I'm having a really tough time and I need to work on myself a bit. That conversation with a young person is really empowering, because you're not trying to be, I'm invincible, there's nothing to see here, no problem. And the kid goes, yeah, but I'm seeing something different to what you're saying, and this is confusing me and upsetting me and stressing me. If you can have that conversation, if you can, it's more empowering for everybody. Well, you know, what can we do together as a family? How do we support each other? You know, parenting goes, there's no rule book. So, you know, you're not doing anything wrong by being honest and authentic and saying, do you know what, a really bad time at the moment, what can we do? I'm going to work on myself, and that's going to teach you that you need to work on yourself. And while I'm doing this, we'll do this with you, and we'll all work on ourselves, on each other. Powerful stuff. So let's have a look. Yeah, PDA, have we got clinical PDA, demand avoidance? So demand avoidance is really tough, really difficult, and there's certain things that might be to link in with. I don't know whether you're on PDA groups or you have any support there, but pathological demand avoidance is a real thing. That's a real barrier. And there are certain things that all the information that I can give you in the whole world won't help, because there's something clinical there that needs support. There's a real imbalance of something, or something that just needs extra resources, extra support. So I would try everything that we know we're going through here, give it a go. But if there's something, if there's that extra thing that's providing the barrier, you know, even all the tools that I can give you in your toolkit might not work if there's something like PDA at play. And a friend of mine, in fact, Lou might be watching, see if I can link it in. With things like PDA, language, I believe, switching your language around really helps with that part of the brain that just will not accept a direct command. I'm told to do something, I'm going to do everything I can not to do it, even if it's not within my interest. I'm just not going to do it. Switching your language around is, and that's not my specialist area, but yeah, finding different ways to approach situations, not making direct eye contact, dealing with it with different kind of different wording can have a huge big impact. So that might be something for you to look into. Sexuality, right? So sexuality is a massive one. I come across this all of the time, and I am working with our group at the moment. So I have something that I was going to tell you at the beginning, actually. We have our youth tribe, so part of Art and Soul Tribe, my organisation. We have, I think it's 10 at the moment, young people. We're working on a project so that we've got young people developing resources for other young people. So it's really powerful, and then we can start to roll it out to other local kids. And this comes up quite a lot. Trying to, and we keep putting this in the mix. It's the parents that often need the education, and especially when it's around identity and gender and sexuality. It's just having the knowledge and the tools and the support your end to be able to understand and support your young person. So when it comes to things like gender as well, I am always misgendering, and I'm trying really hard, and I get it right most of the time, but sometimes I'll get it wrong, and that's why I put my pronouns on there. So, but just asking, just having being open and respectful and honest, and saying, I don't know, talk me through it. I'm a bit stuck. I'm really struggling. Let me know what works for you. What makes you feel good? What pronouns work for you? And it's a difficult thing to get used to when it's not your world and you're not used to it. But just having that open line of communication makes all the difference, because then you're empowering that young person to say, I can speak my truth, and you're interested, and you will listen, and you will hear me. And you're not making me feel awkward, and you're not making me feel like there's something wrong or you don't want to hear. And that's really powerful, so sometimes you've got to get past your own stuff, thinking, I feel a bit awkward, or I don't know what to do. Just have that conversation. Let's do it together. Let's go on this journey together. And again, it's another topic that we're going to be covering in some of our sessions, and we've got a couple of really amazing young people that are going to help me educate me, because I need to learn more. And we have our diversity and inclusion officers, is the wrong word, because we don't really do officers in our organisation, but champion representative who's really, really good with that and is helping as well. So it might be that we can look at putting something on in terms of education, just to support parents. Maybe we'll do a session just on that. I won't run it because I haven't got that experience. I wouldn't be the right person to facilitate that. I'd love to be on it and learn, but I'm not the right person to do it. But I can certainly link in and see if we can do a session, because it is coming up quite a lot. And it's hard as a parent, isn't it? You want to do the right thing, but if you don't know what the right thing is, again, you fight or flight. Danger, danger, danger. Just go, just back off. Yeah, let's just leave the room. It's too dangerous. It's always this fight or flight response that kicks in and stops you from acting the right way. Okay, so again, we've got some more single parent, full time. Really, really, really tough. Really tough. And it's building in support networks, isn't it? Within the communities. If you haven't got a support network within your family setting, have you got some support within the local community? Do you know where things are that are there for you? Have you got access to websites that'll signpost you, or is it literally there's nothing that you know of? Because we're working on a project at the moment to map out where support is, so people can have this asset map to say, right, this is my issue, that can support me there, or those people do that over there, or that I can get help there. So that's something moving forward that might help if you're, single parents struggling. Advocacy, support, benefits, all those kind of things around supporting your child or young person. Okay, so and again, that brings me just to the last bit before you move on. What we think our child's biggest challenge is we think we know what it is, but do we really? Do we need to have a conversation around that, and do we need to think about what it is that's causing the anxiety response? But there's a great one there: gaining understanding from others and the ability to verbalize their fears. And that is it's sometimes a fear response. I can't even get out what I'm feeling because I just can't do it. It's too dangerous and not safe. But there are other ways. There are creative ways for us to be able to do that. It doesn't always have to be talking. Sitting in a room with somebody directly opposite, making eye contact and having to talk about your problems. For me, that doesn't work at all. I can do that. I do that for people, and we can do sort of therapeutic intervention, and we can do talking. I'm really good at it, obviously. But for me, that strategy doesn't work for me for various reasons. But there are other ways. There has to be other things that you can access that don't always have to be verbalizing fears. We're doing lots of visual stuff at the moment. We're doing music, we're doing spoken word, we're doing creating things that represent your fears, and visual stuff sometimes really helps just to get it out. There's an old Buddhist technique called catch and release as well that we do in various ways. I do it with a post-it notes, surprisingly, because I love post-it notes, where you have a think about the last time you experienced anxiety, where did you feel it in your body? Where did you feel it? The first thing I do with people, and people will say either on my throat, I got a lump in my throat, my chest, I couldn't breathe, my heart was beating, or on my belly, it makes me feel sick, butterflies in my tummy. Some people say they can feel it behind their eyes or in their head and they get a migraine. So everybody has a different response when they feel anxious. They feel it in a different part of their body. So if you can identify where do you feel it in your body, and then use a post-it note, write it down, give us a word. What is it? What's the word that represents what you're feeling right now? Stick it on that part of the body. So your brain is recognizing that you know what's going on. Okay, you're listening. You know where you're feeling it. You know what you're feeling. Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it overwhelm? Is it sadness? So you get it down on paper somehow, you recognize, you validate that you're actually feeling that and where your body feels it. And then you can rip it up, you can burn it, you can screw it up, you can put it in the bin. And your brain then will compute that, oh, we got that out then, that's gone then. And it takes a little while, but it's one little tactic that you can build in, get it out. We use a post box sometimes in our sessions, a big problem post box. And if people don't want to talk, don't want to even engage, but they need to vent somehow, they can write on a postcard what it is. They can write it down and post it in the post box. They don't want to put their name on it. We'll never know who it was, but they've managed to share it, and we'll hear it, we'll see it, we will validate it. We don't even know who it is. We don't need to know. Someone just needs to feel they've been listened to and heard. If they want extra support, they can put the details on, and we can, it's all private and confidential there. You're not sharing it with a group. Then we can have a look at what's going on and see if we can help. So so that's something that we can do when it comes to not being able to verbalize things sometimes. Right, so I've come off my my little lino now. I've just seen then with them thinking about autism as well. That's another thing that we're looking at. We're building in. We can't build things fast enough. That's why I wanted to come on, just to give a little bit of initial support. But lots of stuff around neurodiversity in all of its wonderful forms, and how we can support to support various things, and autism comes up quite a lot. Like you say, no mental health issues, just the autism is a barrier, and not understanding how to work with that and deal with it, and having no support. It's just like the missing jigsaw pieces, isn't it, that we can link in to give that support and the right signposting. Okay, so identify challenges. So this is what you need to do to identify what is going on. And the first thing that I would suggest is to actually, when you're not in the middle of an episode, so when you're not in the middle of an anxiety response where everyone's heightened and kicked off, and you know, don't do it then, that's a daft time to do it. When everyone's chilled out in rest and digest, and you feel like it's a good time, it could be in the evening, everyone's watching a movie, or it could be mealtime or whatever, is an exercise that we do quite a lot with our Black Dog projects, but it works in this case, is and it's good if you do with everyone in the family if you can. Don't just single out one, the young person that's just had a meltdown. Everybody needs to do it. And we call it 3 by 3. So have a little conversation and say, right, we're going to sort out what's going on in this household now. Let's have a little plan so that everyone can feel a bit happier and a bit better and a bit less stressed. This is what we're going to do. We're going to write down on each person in the family, or if you're just doing it 2 of you between you, it's fine. But make sure it's at least it's not just that one person, because the blame and the responsibility is on one person then. So if you're parent-child conversation, both of you do it. If you can do it with a wider family, do it with the wider family. Write down 3 things, 3 little warning signs, and you all know what they are yourself. Your family might not see it till it's too late, but what are the warning signs? When I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm feeling a little bit triggered, what are the first things that come to me? What are the warning signs, the little red flags that come up that something's not okay, that I'm not all right? 3 things, right? So everybody has to write down the 3 little warning signs. And then the 3 things that make you feel better. What are the top 3 things that actually help you when you're in that state or when you're in that situation? And the chances are that each person in the family will have different things. And therein lies, an interesting question. If you're trying to fix everybody with the same cookie cutter solution, I'll just count to 5. I'll just pack it in, just big girl pants, big boy pants, I'll just stop it. If you're trying to think of quick solutions that you've seen on the telly, or maybe somebody's taught you or that work for you, you're often barking up the wrong tree, because it's not what that person needs. We need to identify what that person needs, and not when they're in the middle of the situation. It has to be a time where you can have a chat and think, oh, actually, 3 warning signs for me. So for me personally, 3 warning signs are: if I start to complain that I'm getting headaches, I'm really good at managing my headaches, but my big response when I'm looking at nearly burning out, I'll start to get migraines. Now, I've not had them for years, and I had one recently. So I know there's a little bit of a red flag here. I need to think about this. So for me, it's headaches. I will withdraw a little bit, and I will have to just back off, and I'll have to just go into my cave a little bit, because if I'm feeling too overwhelmed. Yeah, so I'm very, very rarely, and you'll never see, I'm a bit of a tricky one, you see. It's not obvious, it's very subtle for me. I'm not angry, I never get angry. If anything, I'll get even more candy floss, sunshine, happiness, and I'll throw out more good vibes the more overwhelmed I'm getting. So it's hard for my friends and family to pick up until it's too late. So, but identifying those things, the people around you, and you can look out for each other. If you know, actually, I lock myself in my room when I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I just start to get dead snippy, don't I? get dead angry, and I'm just dead arsey, and I just pick at everything. Get everybody to write down the 3 things that are the first initial warning signs that I'm going to have a meltdown. Because then you all know for each other. You can stick it on the wall if you want. Stick it on. Look out for these things. Look out for these things. This means I'm teetering on dangerous territory. Okay, so each person's got their 3 things, and then the 3 things that make you feel better are going to be different things for different people. Somebody might think music. I need to just go and listen to music. That fixes me. I need to read a book. I need to get out in nature. I need to go for a walk and get some fresh air. I need to play with my pets. They're the only things that make me feel better. I need to scribble down or draw something or write something. I need a hug. I need a bath. I need to eat. So if everybody has a different set of things that make them feel better, you're not accidentally making someone feel worse by saying, you need to do that, that'll make you feel better. And then it doesn't. And they go, there's something even more wrong with me because I don't feel better. You need to assess what is going on, what are the triggers, and what actually makes each person feel better. And then everybody has that little bit of empowerment to keep their eye on each other then, don't they? It's like, oh, mum's going off on one. She just said she's got a headache. Like nature's good for me, right? So my kids are great for it. You know, she said she's got to have a headache a couple of times. She go for a walk, because the things that work for me, being out in nature. So once everyone's aware of that, it's just creating that culture of support and respect and honesty and openness, and that everybody's validated and everybody's differences are validated. It's a good way to start doing things. And if you want it, it can just be between 2 of you, and you just keep an eye on each other. Accountability buddy, got your back. I'll watch for you, you watch for me. It could be that you have a chart on the wall if you've got a big family, and it's like, oh, that person's having a kick-off, that they need to go for a walk, and you might use stickers and think, right, who likes going for walks, who likes reading, who likes listening to music, and you can support each other that way. Like, yeah, oh gosh, that person in the family is starting to feel a bit, we can see the signs, buddy up with another person in the family that likes going for walks, and you can really support each other properly, and you can make it really, really impactful. So that's another good idea for you there. Building a coping strategies toolkit is what we do a lot of the time on Mindset Mojo. Actually, literally building a toolkit. So I've got a sheet that I give out and that we fill in. We either do it in person when I have a session, or I'll send it out via email. And there's a tick list with loads of ideas on it. And some of the suggestions I just gave you then, it just jogs your memory to think, what works for me? What do I like to do? So having a list of tons and tons and tons of different things, and you can tick off what helps. Then when you're in the middle of this frenzied state, when the switch has been flicked and you're going, oh, I'm reacting, I don't know what to do, you don't have to think. You've got this list of what helps me. You can look and think, actually, I'm going to have a bath. That makes me feel better. I'm going to have a hot bath. I'm going to put my favourite bubble bath in it. I'm going to put my headphones in. Or I'm going to read. But if you've got that list there, that's part of your toolkit, and you know what works. And if you're doing it with your kids, you know what works for them because you've done it as an activity, what works. Okay, so a couple of other things, and a couple of things that might be on the list when you start to compile it. There's some really good breathing exercises, and it's tricky when you've got older kids because younger kids, I mean, it's great because they're kind of ready and willing to work with you on things, and you can use these distraction techniques. Your older kids, a little bit trickier, but really, really good, quick solutions that we use with adults. But just keep in mind that your kid might react even more if you're like, come and do this breathing with me. So you have to find sneaky ways to get them to do it. But if someone's in the middle of a full-blown anxiety moment and they're really, really struggling, the best way to switch it off that I found really quickly, and if you think in terms of switching from sympathetic nervous system, flicking a switch into parasympathetic nervous system, I like quick solutions. So we want to reduce the amount of adrenaline, right? So there's something called noradrenaline, which is the opposite, and it turns the sympathetic nervous system off, or it helps to. And we access that when we breathe out. Right, so breathing out is what we need to do. Is we need a long exhale. So if we can find a way to stop this shallow adrenaline, and get the exhale longer, it's a very fast way to flip the switch and to calm down. So one of the things that I use and I teach to people, because it works for me, there's loads of different ways. But breathing to anchor you back down, or balloon breathing, and it's a very, very quick in breath, like you're expanding a balloon inside your rib cage. Really quick in breath, almost like you're about to hold your breath. Hold for a second, and then a very, very, very long out breath, like you're blowing up a balloon on the outside. And if you can make your exhale twice as long as your in breath, at least, right? So exhale twice as long as your inhale, it will really flick the switch, and you can calm down really quickly. That's why they say, you know, take some deep breaths. But sometimes taking deep breaths, you can't get to the point. You need you need to break the state and have a physical action to follow. So, you know, specific. You need to breathe in for 1 second, you need to breathe out for 10 seconds. You'll follow it. If someone just says, just take deep breaths, I can't take deep breaths, I'm too busy, you know, not taking deep breaths. So this breathing exercise works really well, especially if you can get someone to just make eye contact quickly, like, look at me, do this with me, and do a big, as if you're going to hold your breath, and just get to hold it for just a second, and then really slow. That kind of real blown up a balloon, it takes ages to blow that breath out, so it's much longer than the inhale. So that particular way for me, if I'm really having a moment where I think, whoa, I'm getting a little bit, that 3 of those breaths absolutely switches it back down again. So for me, that works really well. It's worth trying. It's worth trying yourselves if you're getting into a stressful situation. Balloon breath, and then a really long out breath. Another good one is fingers, hands, great for little kids as well, but you can use it. I know that a lot of the professionals teach this as one as well, to trace your fingers. My hand, perspective, my hand looks huge. So to do an in-breath slowly as you're tracing your thumb, and it's just an activity to break state, to stop whatever, to distract from whatever you're in and do something right quick. Give us your hand, do that, in-breath. And okay, well, get them to breathe in slowly and then really slowly breathe out. And while you're focusing on something else, it's different to saying just take a deep breath. You're actually doing something. So an in-breath and then an out-breath, and you can slow down that breathing pattern. Follow it all the way along, and then they've done 5 big breaths. And you kept it nice and calm, nice and slow. So that's a good one, finger breathing. There's 5 things, which is really good to break state. So I don't know whether anyone's done this before. It's quite a common one. Sometimes it's called the 5 by 5, and you will pick 5 things for each of the 5 senses. I like to do it slightly differently. So if somebody is having, you know, an anxiety response, and you want to get them back into rest and digest, quick, name 5 things that you can see. 5 things that you can see right now. You could pick a colour if you wanted to, but 5 things you can see, and then they have to name 5 things in front of them. Right, cool. 4 things that you could touch right now. 4 things, and they're finding 4 things. And the brain just confuses itself out of that state and back into a different state. 3 things you can hear. Use all your senses. What can I hear? And you have to look inside your head then. What can I hear? 2 things that you can smell. That's a tough one. How can you separate 2 things you can smell? But you can, and your brain will then start to focus on that as an activity. 1 thing that you can taste. So you can go through that. 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. Quick way of breaking the state and getting into a different space. And then maybe just a little bit of breath at the end. And then you can say, right, you all right? How you feeling? You feel a bit different now. You feel different than you did a couple of minutes ago. let's have a quick walk, let's just go and get out of this room, or let's have a little bit of fresh air. Tell me what happened, what was it, what made you feel like that, what did you need, what can we do, what can we do next time if that happens again? And then, you know, we're in this state of being calmer, the hormones have stopped rushing around, logic can be accessed again, a bit of reasoning and language skills, and the person feels validated, heard, understood, not like they're being a burden, not like they're being stupid. So it's all about your response as well, which is why it's important for you to work on your mental health, your anxiety response, you know, your stress. So that's another good one. Another thing, I'm really going to be on for another few minutes. I've got another couple of tricks to show you, and I've got an activity to leave you with as well. So something that we do in sessions. I just realised I had a cup of tea here the whole time, which is going to be stone cold now. Yes, I was right. So another thing that we do, and it's one of my favourite things, is called a calm jar. And we do this sometimes as a recycling project with old pop bottles as well, which is cool. Calm jar is an empty container of some kind. Obviously, it's a glass jar. I need to get it to settle down again now. I've just moved it around. And basically what we do is I fill it up with water, and I get and I do this with the adults. I do this in corporate settings with, you know, big wigs in suits. Can you imagine how well that goes down? Let's do something creative. Let's play. It has the same effect, and it's really, you know, a good tool. So you would fill it up with water and use food colouring, or you can use I use glass paint. Sometimes it tends to disperse better, but any kind of artistic paint that will disperse in water, to pick the colour, your favourite colour. So when I'm doing it in a group setting, some people have purples. I like the sea, so I like to make it like aqua colour. Those are different colours. So that's the first part of the activity, is to find a colour that you like, that makes you feel peaceful or calm or happy. And that's the first visual representation that will bring someone into a state of feeling better. So let's pick the favourite colour, fill it up. Then we're going to use glitter. So glitter is just, again, another good tool. It's a bit like Post-it notes for me, glitter. You can do so much with these things. And a little tiny spoon. What we do is, again, catch and release, this technique of everything that's swimming in your head. Let's get it out. Let's get it out, because your subconscious recognizes these things, which is why creative activity is great, because your subconscious runs 95% of your brain. So 95% is subconscious programming. You're only aware of 5% of what there's going on. So we need to do these little tricks that are going to access your subconscious. So favorite color, gone in there. Now we're going to use glitter to represent all of the things that are just stuck in your head, that swim around, that are really stressful. Anything that bothers you. What's bothered you today, or what bothers you in general? Is it, you know, cruelty to animals? Is it something, you know, your best friend said something? Is it you're always fighting with your sibling? You hate the fact that you're anxious? You get in trouble at school from a bully? You are worried that you're going to fail this project that you're doing? You are sad that your parents are split up? You're worried about your mum who's really struggling because she has anxiety? You are worried about COVID-19, you're worried about the situation that's going on around the planet, you're worried about climate change. Anything that bothers you and is on your mind, spoonful of glitter, consider that particular thing and put it in the jar. So right, there's one thing. We'll put that one in there now for safekeeping. There's another worry. Let's put that one in there. When you're finished, when you feel like that's enough and you've used the glitter and you've put your worries in the jar, screw it on. And this is where you need to make sure you've got something that's going to be tight, because otherwise you can end up with a little bit of a messy disaster. And then what you would do is, you now have your own little kind of snow globe calm jar. And the trick is, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling a little bit stressed, and I hope it's going to come through on the screen all right, it might be a bit blurry, but you shake it up, and you see all the glitter. It's beautiful and pretty, but it's just going crazy, and it represents your state of mind at the time. But as you visually watch the glitter start to settle, you can do your balloon breathing, and you can access that noradrenaline, calm your sympathetic nervous system down as your eyes are watching the glitter settle back to the bottom. It's a whole body response. So you're using all your senses. You're breathing and you're watching, and the glitter's just settling from being really chaotic and crazy to being nice and slow, nice and calm. and watch it settling, and it has this impact on your, you know, on your brain and your mind and your body, that it also starts to help calm things down until everything settles back down again. The more you use that and the more you do it, I've usually got one in the car. My kids have all made them. Got one on the windowsills in the bedroom. This one's literally right next to me all the time. Once you've got it, and if you use it enough, like for me now, I learned this years ago and I've been doing it for years, your brain will connect this jar, this colour and this glitter with being calm. So you don't even have to focus on it after a while. You can just shake it off. And as this glitter settles, you don't even have to do the breathing exercises. You're just automatically, oh yeah, calm now. It's just a little physical tool to be able to use. Calm jar. Okay. The other thing that I think might be a helpful tool, and I'm not going to go into it in too much detail because I know you're all probably desperate to get off and go and live your lives and go and do something else. But it's worth thinking about because I think it's quite powerful. And it's EFT. I don't know whether you've come across it. If you haven't, give it a bit of a Google. EFT and TFT are really good. EFT is emotional freedom technique. TFT is very similar, thought field therapy. And what it is, it's based on the principle, and I did some, I'm nowhere near an expert or a master in it, but I've done some training because I wanted some little tricks to help the groups that I was working with. So that's how I know about it. It's tapping. So you might have heard of tapping before now. And it's based on the theory that we have our nervous system and we have all our blood vessels and all these things, but we also have like a fiber optic system. So we have a very subtle energy system that runs all the way through our body in what's called meridians. And in Chinese medicine and in Eastern medicine, it's been used for years and years. They kind of connect in with reflexology with these points. But it's very, very powerful, scientifically backed, evidence-based. You know, it's just because we didn't know about it a few years ago, we do now. So we have this fiber optic tiny system, like this subtle energy system, they call it, runs through like tiny little cables. And there's certain points in the body that we need to interrupt when we're trying to break state and we're trying to change our patterns. So it's really good because you can do it with little tiny young kids, you can do it with adults. There's specific patterns that you can use to get rid of them. I've used it for pain. I've been able to get rid of a migraine just by tapping, no meds. Doesn't always work, but I've done it quite a few times. You can bring down anxiety quickly. You can work on all kinds of things. You can reduce, you know, your heart rate and different things like that just by tapping. Magic, and it's free. So there's a certain way of doing it, and I do go through it a little bit more in Mindset Mojo, but sometimes I'll give it to kids. If I'm doing a big assembly and there's loads of kids, I'll get them to do tapping on the corner of their fingernails instead of clicking a pen, or instead of doing something, you know, that's annoying the teacher. If they're anxious and they need to be fidgeting, tap on the corner of their fingernails, because that's one of the connector points that does help while they're thinking, if they can, about something positive. So the theory behind it, if you look into it more, if you come on Mindset Mojo, is you set up you're working basically with your conscious and your subconscious mind. You're connecting the two together and you're trying to reprogram some stuff, right? That's the easy way to put it. It's quite complex. It's what you're doing. You're getting in the control seat and you're reprogramming stuff. And you set up a statement by tapping in the middle of the side of your hand there. And you decide what it is that you want to change. So let's say it's anxiety. You set up a sentence that says, even though I'm experiencing anxiety, or even though I'm feeling anxious, I still completely accept myself totally and unconditionally, or I am absolutely fine with that, and I love and accept myself completely. Some people struggle with the word love, so find what works for you, but you need to be telling your subconscious, I'm actually experiencing this. Totally, yeah, I know I am. I'm experiencing anxiety, but that's okay, and I still accept myself completely. I'm going to work through it. So it's finding something that works for you as a sentence and setting it up at this point here, which starts to do a bit of programming. Once you've done that, then there's a series of tapping points from the inner eyebrow, and then you've got the outer corner of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, under the lip, the collarbone, one side or the other, and your bra strap, or if you don't wear a bra, just underneath like a monkey, top of the head. So there's a certain pattern to follow, and you have to do it 4 or 5 times. And as you're doing these tapping points, you're going to acknowledge once again, I'm feeling anxious, feel really anxious, feeling really stressed. And you can use whatever wording you want around that subject. And you're just validating that this is going on. You're experiencing this, it's completely valid, it's okay, you're allowed to experience it, and you keep doing the tapping points. And then I do it on the second time round. I will change my language. So I'm telling my subconscious, I actually feel all right now. I don't feel too anxious at all. Starting to ease up now. I don't experience anxiety anymore. I'm not an anxious person. I feel nice and calm. And then your brain starts to program in those new things. So it's really useful. It's really good. And it also is just a good way to break state and to focus on something new as an action. So for me, these kind of things are far better than some of the negative coping strategies. It's like if you're going to do something negative, it's much better to try and have something like this to use to be able to distract yourself, and because it's, you know, it's a long-term solution as well. Tapping is something that will help program in new thoughts, feelings, and behaviour patterns. So again, there's loads more to it, and you can look into it. It's really, really good. And we'll do a little bit more on Mindset Mojo. We also do some different kinds of meditations and a little bit of programming through creative visualizations and certain things that we do that are a bit creative around those things. So that is about it. That's all I've got on my list that I can share with you, because we're going to be coming up to the 90 minutes pretty shortly. I hope you found it useful, and there's been some bits of information. I know I've packed it all into quite a short space of time, but I don't know how often I can do these things, and I just wanted, because so many people I knew were struggling, I wanted to get something out really quick and share with as many people as possible. So don't forget to hit the link if you want to join Mindset Mojo on a Tuesday, starting next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. That's the 1st of Feb. And then we'll have another 6 weeks then of like a focused stuff that you'll be able to think, at least I've got that in a week. I can jump on, I can not be mum or not be dad, and I can just get a little bit of extra knowledge, bit of extra support, work on my own stuff at the same time while I'm getting the information ready for using it within the family. So I thought that'd be cool. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, thought I'd just get me empowerment cards. I've got 2 things I'm going to do to leave you with, and this is for you guys at home as well. I'm going to pull a card and see what comes up just as a thought. These are empowering power cards. Thoughts, just something to think about when you go. So let's see what comes up. Let's have a look. So this one says, oh, okay, good one. How would I want to be encouraged right now? What would I want to hear? So that's a good one to think about for yourself. How would you want to be encouraged right now? What would help you? What would you want to hear to give you some encouragement? Have a think about it. And then with that being said, is it something you can pass on to your kids? How can you encourage them? How can you give them a bit of a high five? And it's okay, you're doing well, you've got this kind of vibe. So that's a good one. There's another one that jumped out at the same time, which I think, looking at it, is very relevant to today's session. What kind of advice would I give to my younger self? So I'd really like you to ponder on that one. What kind of advice would I give my younger self? Because that will help you to start processing some of the things that might be coming up for you. You know, if you want to tell yourself you are enough, you are worthy, you're all right, that will give you some thoughts around what maybe you need to work on. And it'll also help you think, you know, what advice can you give right now to your kids that is meaningful? So there you go, that's that one. And then finally, I've got my little jar that I haven't used for a while, which I love. So I've got a mindful activity that I think it just gets you thinking about stuff that you can do yourself and within your family dynamic, that's kind of together stuff that helps with that brain reprogramming and that helps with that anxiety management. You've got other things to focus on that aren't the triggers, that aren't the dynamics and the stress. Something else to focus on is really powerful. And if you can make it a mindful activity, which basically means here and now, not thinking about the past, not stressing about the future, something that you can do that's really relevant to right now, and it's just in the present moment without any judgment. That's a really powerful healing tool. So I'm going to pick one out, get a blue one. The relevance again, there's some definite relevant stuff coming up here. So this is called the Smartphone Week. So that's something that, again, it comes up when we're talking about young people, although we've not discussed it tonight. When it comes to living our lives mindfully and keeping our minds in the here and now, the smartphone can be something of an enemy. Finding stillness and inherent joy in quiet moments and the simple things in life can be tough when you have a magical little brick in your pocket, which can hijack your consciousness in a second. And aren't we all just addicted to our technology and our phones? Remember back to the grizzly bear on a treadmill? This is what it is. We're addicted to our technology, and it gives us panic moments. We're not doing enough, and I haven't checked my feed, and people are messaging me. Dangerous stuff. It keeps us in that fear response. So quite right, hijacks your consciousness in a second. So this week we are bringing our attention to the little beast. Each and every time you pick up your phone to do anything, bring your awareness to why and what you are doing with it. And this is great to see if you can get kids involved with this as well. So you're not saying, let's all put our phones in the bin or let's hide them and not use them for a week, because whereas that is great, no one's going to do it. No, I couldn't do it. You're just being more mindful. You're just thinking about it. And anything you do that's mindful will change everything about your brain. So if you can start to do more mindful activity, you create new neural pathways and you access this neuroplasticity, which changes your brain, and that will help no end with anxiety because your brain's starting to learn and focus on different things. So anything mindful is good. So here's some example. So I'm going to search for a good restaurant for lunch. Pretty cool reason to pick up your phone, that's okay. I'm going to check Facebook for 5 minutes because I'm bored. I'm going to find out what the capital of, now I don't even know what that word is, Laos, Laos is, to win an argument. Laos, Laos? Pick the one, I don't know the word, typical, isn't it? So maybe you're going to find out what the capital of a city is to win an argument. You want to use Google for that. So this tactic brings out a level of thoughtfulness that combats unthinking compulsion. It prevents the grabbing of the phone every single time we're bored or even just alone. By noticing these mindless mobile moments, we can appreciate how often we're missing out on life due to our super smartphone. So it's a really good thing to do yourself and to do with the kids. See if you can do it for, choose a day and say, right, all day we're going to do this. Every time we pick up our phone, we're going to think, why am I picking my phone up? That's it. And just bring that awareness. So little things that you can do together like that as a family are just building in new ways to connect, to talk, to think about things a little bit differently, and that in itself will have a huge impact on our stress response and on your anxiety levels. So I hope you've found some value out of that and it's been useful. Hopefully you've got the link, and I might see some of you on Tuesday. You can still link in with me on Facebook, on the Art and Soul Tribe page, or on the Mindset Mojo page, or on my feed where the live is now. And just hang in there. You're doing a brilliant job. You know, you are doing an amazing job. It's such a tough thing to be doing, supporting yourself, let alone another person. So you've got to give yourself a bit of a break and just be a bit kinder to ourselves, I think, is the key. But hopefully you'll be able to use some of those little tools, and that knowledge that you've got won't go anywhere now. You'll always know what's going on when you experience a trigger. So I'm going to sign off now, and I'm going to go and make myself another cup of tea that isn't stone cold. And thank you once again for joining me. And hopefully I'll see you all again on Mindset Mojo. Bye for now.
Can I just say a huge thank you?
Oh, of course you can.
My first ever time coming on this. I've only found it this week, and I was meant to find it.
Oh, wow.
I was meant to find it. I've meant to find it at this time for me and for my family.
Absolutely. The universe will send you wherever you need to be at the time. And that's why I thought I've got to do it, because there'll be someone out there that needs it. So I'm really, really glad you found it.
Oh, well, I definitely needed it. I've been blown away. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. It makes, it makes me know I'm doing a good job, and people.
You're doing a fantastic job. And I've
brilliant.
signed up to join next week.
Brilliant. So that'll be private and I'll be able to see you properly. And then on Tuesday, we'll go a little bit deeper into all this. So I think over the next 6 weeks, I'll be able to really give you a bit of extra support there then. So really glad. I really appreciate that feedback as well. Thank you so much.
You keep going, keep smiling and doing what you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, bless you. Well, you carry on not being a mum for the rest of the night. You chill out, look after yourself.
I'm going for a bath.
Good. Get some candles out, get a nice drink and have a bath, and then model that good behaviour, and everybody else will follow you then. So
we've got a because of the autistic son, we've got a do not disturb sign. So excellent. That works when he needs his own time, but it also works when I need mine. So
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So you've already got those strategies in place. You're already starting with the things that you need. Brilliant. Well, hopefully we'll be able to build some more in with you as well. So I'm really grateful for that feedback, because it makes me feel like it is worth doing. It is helping somebody.
Definitely worth doing.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Well, I will see you on Tuesday then. See you on Tuesday evening with another cuppa. Thank you so much. Thank you. And
Bye.
Thank you. I'll see you all on Tuesday if you're coming along. Cheers, Carla.
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
Right. See you soon.
See you tomorrow.